What's going on, guys? Um Back for a video. I missed you yesterday, and I apologize. Fridays have become a weird day for me, in which it's very difficult for me to do anything but the bare minimum of taking care of life responsibilities. So that's what happened yesterday. But here I am today. Lots of things to talk about, of course. Um, what I saw when I got up this morning, I saw a tweet from Greta Thunberg about how Sweden has averaged 7C above average over January, and I think that's right. I think I'm quoting that right. And Oslo was like 10C over above the average. That is a lot of C's, if you will. And I happened on a few other stories. We've been talking about this. Hello, Poppy. We've been talking about this pretty frequently lately, as there is a lack of snow in the northern European countries. Russia, places where they are traditionally buried by snow at this time of year, where it is extremely frigid, and that's the norm. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what's supposed to be happening. Again in Alaska, Canada, etc. And the northern European countries have had a significant lack of snow and significantly warmer temperatures. Forest Dweller, I think, is in the Netherlands, if that's right, and he has also reported a lack of cold temperatures and snow. And yeah, so I came across this article, how Sweden's skiers are coping with a warm winter and lack of snow. After an unusually mild winter, most of Sweden is without its usual January blanket of snow, which has caused problems both at ski resorts and in forests and other areas popular for cross-country skiing. In Stockholm, Johnny Kosmar works for a municipality sports department and is responsible for the ski tracks at Garde and Stadion in the northern part of the capital. This is really bad, he says. There are no ski tracks in Stockholm. It's too warm. I've never known a winter like this in the 10 years I've worked in skiing. Oddly enough, I have a good friend who's an avid skier, and there's been lots of snow in California, or as of late. He's having a good old time. He's skiing, every single day. So odd, kind of an odd flip of weather circumstances, but we can expect that. We can expect that with weather weirding, with unnatural weather patterns, with a weak jet stream, etc. John Lundqvist says, right, little snow 0 to 10 north of Sweden, to North Sweden. I'm not sure if I got all the meaning of that comment, but thank you. Sorry, I'm getting messages. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Michael Bierlin says Michigan well above last 2 months. Fiesta Cranberry, hey, had to do. Yeah, so places where it's traditionally extremely chilly, it is warm. And this isn't just an anomaly. This isn't an anomaly that's happened this year. This seems to be something that's been occurring more frequently over the last couple of years. So the anomaly, they like to call it an anomaly. That's what all the articles and people reporting on this will say the words anomaly or strange weather for this part of the world, but it's actually starting to turn into a trend. The anomaly is actually a trend. And what does that trend tell us? Pray tell. The trend tells us it's getting warmer. Fiesta Cranberry says 65 here today, felt warmer. Well, right now, my phone app is telling me that it's 81 degrees where I am right now. It's quite warm, very warm. And they haven't even broken out the fake clouds yet to try and cool everything down. They're usually pretty good about laying down a nice layer of clouds, but they decided today, they were like, nah, not going to do it. D-Truth, what's up? Yeah, so this is just, more evidence, ongoing rise in temperatures. Obviously the Arctic is getting warmer quicker than other parts of the world. Again, other places are getting, ungodly amounts of snow, are getting, record cold snaps. And, that's all part of what is supposed to happen. Good morning to you, Henry Holt. How's it going? How are you? How are you getting along? I know that you were in kind of emergency mode from the fires. I don't know if you're back at your home or where you're at. Hopefully you're back at home. I don't know. Oh, speaking of which, Prudhomme, good point. Oz fires are back. Canberra under state of emergency. Did you all see that time lapse of? I said there was a time lapse on Twitter of the fire that was coming towards Canberra. It's insane. And Canberra actually being the place, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. What is his name? The guy that talks about regreening and lowering temperatures through. He's Australian. Anyways, he lives in Canberra, and Canberra is supposed to be one of the more, I guess, climate resilient cities, or one of the cities that are more prepared, or more they're taking on the climate change situation seriously, which is so unfortunate that the fires are heading towards Canberra. Omega Ministries, Ukraine has no snow this year and they're worried. Well, yeah. Well, and along with no snow and the higher temperatures, you get plants thinking that it's spring. You get, plants budding or flowering too early. And then when, the cold inevitably comes back, or the cold snap comes back, then the plants are either die or, they're confused. It just messes everything up. Jochen Duisberg says Munich 10 to 15 C today, 50 or 60 Fahrenheit. It's pretty warm. Absolutely. Canberra. Sorry about that. Canberra. Prudhomme says Moscow authorities were using artificial snow during December. Yeah, so, little talked about on the mainstream news, of course. Of course, it's all titillation and intrigue, right? Palace intrigue. It's all, what are the political mucky mucks doing and what is everybody saying about what they're doing? Very little attention is being paid to the fact that the earth is getting warmer. This is causing problems, is going to cause problems, not yet because everything is semi-normal. So everybody's like, oh, hey, it's a nice day out. It is a beautiful day out, actually, in Los Angeles. It is a beautiful day in Los Angeles. But here's the crazy part It's like 80 degrees today, and over the next 3 days, we're supposed to get like for LA a cold snap. It's going to be down into the 30s at night, like for the next 3 days. So definitely weird weather. I'm glad I didn't plant anything. I was about to start planting, putting seeds in the ground, and I'm glad I didn't do that because it's going to be very, very cold over the next 3 or 4 days. And it looks like actually that's going to last for at least the next week. It's not, we're not getting down to freezing, but enough so that it would kind of probably mess with definitely the seedlings coming up. Wouldn't be a good if it's 34 degrees at night or whatever. D-Truth says last year spring came, the flowers were up, and then it snowed. Yeah. Yep. Here in Brazil, Supremo says here in Brazil we have 2 states underwater and the rest drying out. One moment. I have to respond to this. Henry Holt says dystopia is here. The disaster unfolding and continues. Community is grieving the loss of half homes and thousands of acres is just stumps and ash. My daughter is having trouble sleeping. I'm sorry to hear about that, Henry. It sounds fucking terrible. I'm sorry. Yeah, so in Australia, it's obvious things are wrong. The situation in Australia is scary and getting scarier and getting worse. And so people are having their lives affected, having their lives upended, having disasters take over, every other situation. So it's hard for people to, for business as usual to, of course people are going to keep going and keep, hanging out. Like, there's nothing wrong. We're going to go to the beach. Everything's great. Let's have a party. Let's have a tennis tournament. But it's going to get harder and harder for those things to continue. The business as usual is going to be more like business if we can continue the business. Realize Real Lies says no snow in Pittsburgh at all. 0. That's crazy. That is crazy because I've been through Pittsburgh in the winter several times, and there's ice and snow everywhere. Pittsburgh is a very chilly city, and that's wild. That's insane, actually. I mean, New York hasn't really gotten any snow. In the Northeast, the Midwest, the upper Midwest, Detroit, not really. It was what I've heard. It's been very warm. Usually this time of year, I used to travel through Michigan quite a lot, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. I used to travel through all those states in the wintertime quite a bit. And I'm used to driving through a couple feet of snow on the banks and ice on the ground. And so, I'm sure that's, very nice not to have to deal with the snow, but, Brian Smith, how you doing? Gregory Melnichuk says lots of snow and precipitation in BC this winter. Yeah. Strangely enough, the West Coast has actually gotten quite a bit of snow and quite a bit of cold weather. And we actually got quite a bit of rain here in Los Angeles, above average for our winters. And it's been fairly cold, which is not the norm. Mary Jane says here in Northern Illinois, we got snow on Halloween, and then it has been super warm with no snow until like 2 weeks ago. We finally got some snow, but not much. Yeah. I mean, for now, this is just oh, that's weird. This is great. It's spring and the winter and everybody can enjoy the weather, but it's soon it is going to be summer. And then it's going to be very, very hot. I have this, feeling in the back of my neck that this summer is going to be a wild one for climate change. That and I this is just a complete total shot in the dark hunch. This is not based on anything scientific whatsoever. So let me preface it with that. But I just have this feeling that it's going to be we're going to see some really crazy weather and very warm temperatures. And I feel like this summer it's going to become so obvious to people that there's a global warming problem, that people are going to be like, yeah, we should, of course it's going to be like, yeah, we should do something about this, not realizing the timeline in which we exist is, we're way, way deep into the problem of climate change. Doing something about it means going, not only putting on the brakes, but going backwards somehow very quickly. Brian Smith says 30 degrees above normal here in Cascade foothills of western central Oregon. Mary Jane says this is ecological collapse for ya. Brian Smith, 62 degrees yesterday here, snow Monday. Yeah, I think there's going to be a cold front coming in because we're getting a cold front for sure. I haven't really checked the meteorological maps. Sorry. So I haven't really seen what is going on with that, but I'm sure. Fiesta says I'm planting tomatoes. Yeah, you know what? I was about to start planting, but I'm glad that I didn't because it's going to get really cold in the next couple days. But whatever. I mean, cold being relative here in Los Angeles. Moving on to another story. That I wanted to kind of just touch on. Let me see. This is concerning Davos. And people were getting upset that Prince Charles flew 16,000 miles in a private jet before giving a climate change lecture. Prince Charles is actually very aware of climate change. There's lots of people becoming very aware of climate change. Does anybody know who Jennifer Lewis is? She's like a social activist. She's on Instagram, and she does these really great videos where she sings, usually with a few people, sometimes by herself. A very talented woman. But she has suddenly, I guess suddenly fell into the understanding of climate change being the dilemma that it is. And she's doing videos all the time on climate change, which is encouraging and also, also scary because she's, fairly mainstream kind of, I guess, she's not mainstream celebrity, but I guess, I look at her, I see her as kind of like regular person celebrity, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like if she understands climate change, and I'm glad that she is because she's kind of spreading the message to, I think, people that might not be all that concerned about it or might not know all that much about it. So I think that like her carrying the torch is really valuable. Anyways, people are coming into this knowledge, Prince Charles being one of them. But again, especially for the super rich and the super wealthy and the super privileged, it's really hard to see past, you can see the science and you can see the logic of it or see what's happening. But you can't see that the things that you are doing, your insistence on living the way that you live, on the lifestyle that you pursue is a big part of the problem. And until we have, rich celebrity types who are concerned about climate change actually taking a stand and putting their money where their mouth is and doing things like swearing off flying or maybe even swearing off making movies like Leonardo DiCaprio, like the best thing that he could do right now is like, I'm not making any movies. I'm not going to fly anymore. I'm going to sell all my yachts and, I'm going to really go hardcore into this climate change thing. You know, I mean, I know we all got to live and eat, but Leonardo DiCaprio is an extremely rich person and does not need any more money, and does not need any more movies, and does not need any more yachts, does not need any more private islands, does not need any more, young model type girlfriends, does not need any more of that shit. Like, you know, he's got everything, and he's got enough money to, I'm sure, last several lifetimes. So if he just quit the business and quit flying and quit doing the destructive things that his lifestyle does to the planet, that would be a really good model for other people, especially rich people, to follow. Fiesta. Well, yes, we are all gonna die. Yes. Poppy Davis says coronavirus revised 76,000 infected. Prudhomme says Greta has trademarked her name. I don't approve. You know, I think she's probably doing it so that other people don't use her name. I actually totally approve, because if she doesn't do that, like, nefarious people might use her image or her name or her whatever to put out misinformation, or to, say like Greta endorses this thing, or, Greta's on our team or whatever. Like, I think that's probably wise. I don't know. Prudhomme also says the rich can never have enough. The rich are different. F. Scott Fitzgerald. They seem to not ever have enough, right? Like, why is, let's take Mike Bloomberg, for example. A guy who has so much money that there isn't a possible way that he could spend all the money that he has in his lifetime, in whatever he has left of his life. And now this lunatic is in the Democratic race, and really, to the consternation of many, he's having a really negative effect on the race, on the nominating process. Just this weekend, they changed the rules, or just this week they changed the rules for Mike Bloomberg to make it into the debates now. So they kept other people who were legitimate candidates for president out of the debates because they didn't have enough support or not enough money, or et cetera, et cetera. But Mike Bloomberg, who gave the DNC over $300,000 before he entered the race, they said, that's cool, Mike. Come on in. You can be parts of the debate. This is crazy. This is insane. The rich are, I just, I don't care how pure their intentions are, or where they think that their heart is at, or how much they say, like, we're going to fix these ills and these problems of society, like climate change. Tom Steyer is another billionaire who's in the race, whose main thrust of his message is climate change. He's like the climate change candidate now. I don't see how these billionaires are going to fix climate change. They can't see past their own part in the destruction. And they will never give up their power or their money in order to actually influence a change, like a real change. Yeah, so, the rich being, prominent people who are on the forefront of trying to do something about climate change. Again, I'll bring up my discussion I had with somebody who was going to a meeting, a Davos-like meeting, and we got into the conversation went towards climate change, and she asked me, what should I tell these very rich people, billionaires, etc. What should I tell them about climate change? And I told her, tell them to, fold up shop, close their businesses, take their money, and go away. And she was like, I can't tell them that, right? Because she knew their narcissism and their self-importance would never allow them to actually think like, shit, it's me. I'm the problem. I am the problem. They want to just see themselves as the solution to everything. They don't see themselves as the problem. Sandy, how you doing? Prudhomme, Bloomberg has spent tens of millions on ads. He is a stalking horse for she who must not be named. The evil one. The evil witch of Narnia. Yeah. Bloomberg is here for one thing and one thing only, and that is to just upset the apple cart, to take Bernie out of the race, or to be a component in taking him out of the race. So was Biden, so was Warren, so was, all these other people that were in the race. We'll see what happens. They're cranking up the machine right now to cheat Bernie again. And let me just say, if they do that, there's absolutely no reason why Bernie and Tulsi, maybe together, jump out of the race and go independent and give everybody the finger and say, like, well, we were, going to help the Democratic Party. We were going to be loyal to the DNC. We were on your side, but you guys did it again. Anyways. Fuck the DNC, yes. Environmental Coffee House, yes. Environmental Coffee House, Jennifer and Sandy will be live at 7 Eastern. So stay tuned for that. That's pretty soon. Yeah. A couple hours. Everybody check that out. Prudhomme, environment says pitchforks for Schiff. All right, Henry, take it easy. Have a good one. Peace to you and family. The Democratic Party is just falling apart. And, I was just reading the other day how Trump's approval rating has gone up to the highest it's been since he was inaugurated. So that impeachment was a really good idea, guys. It was really good. And they're going to acquit him. It's going to be hours until he's acquitted, right? Monday, Tuesday, they're going to end this, which everybody knew was going to happen. Yeah. Yes, Bernie and Tulsi, independent ticket. So, listen, the DNC screwed Tulsi out of being on the debate stage, and they're screwing her out of there was a big, like, town hall prior to the Iowa primaries, which is Monday, by the way. There's a town hall this weekend, and they excluded Tulsi Gabbard, who has been in the race for a year, who has been, consistently going up in the polls, who has been, on the debate stage, has been, a voice that people really relish being in the race. She's an important person, but she is anti-establishment and they hate her guts. So they're just screwing her over. So they excluded her from this town hall this weekend. And then they were like, oh, but Mike Bloomberg, you can be in. That's fine. You can do it. And she's pissed, and a lot of people are pissed, and they have a right to be pissed. And that's, I'm just saying, if they go to great lengths to screw Bernie out of this, if it looks like it's going that way, I think that Bernie and Tulsi should just, link arms and walk out of the Democratic Party and let them collapse upon themselves, because they're useless. They're totally useless. At least what happened in 2016 was that Trump was totally anti-establishment. The Republican Party hated Trump. They didn't want him to win, but he had such overwhelming approval, and he was winning all the primaries and the caucuses. They couldn't stop him. They tried to tell everybody how terrible he was, and they don't want him in their party, blah, blah, blah. He, ran counter to everybody in the party and still won. That could presumably happen with Bernie. Like Bernie is, the entire party establishment is against Bernie, but Bernie could have such overwhelming appeal that there's really not much they can say about it. It could just be like a straight arm, like get out of the way because Bernie's coming through. And that's what everybody hopes happens. But the DNC might actually be more corrupt than the GOP because the GOP might have not liked Trump, but they didn't cheat him out of getting the nomination. They didn't outright cheat him. They outright cheated Bernie out of at least a fair shot at getting the nomination in 2016. And if they do it again this time, they have absolutely nobody to blame but themselves for the destruction of the Democratic Party and the re-election of Trump. That's what's going down. What up, everybody? People coming in. George, how you doing? Sacroculides, how you doing? They will take all the young people with them. Three-party system. Absolutely. I think that they can do it. They can break it. I mean, Bernie could have broke it in 2016. But if they have such cross-generational and cross-party and independent appeal, Bernie and Tulsi together, if they teamed up, they could squash everybody. They could squash everything. And they could break the system. And I actually would prefer that they do that than to keep this, keep this thing going, which isn't helping anybody. Mary Jane asks Kevin, global dimming, perhaps. Do you mean in regards to what? I don't know. In regards to the higher temperatures lately? I don't know. Good to have you on the chat, George. Yeah, and now everybody, the flu scare, the coronavirus scare is ramping up, and everybody is. I'm seeing quite a few people with masks running around, even though in the U.S. It's the chances of being infected are extremely low, like extremely low. But it's good to be prepared, or good to at least, be precautionary. Last Monkey said, where are you, Last Monkey? Where do you reside? Osama says, death to America. Infidels. Last Monkey, I know you've been talking about the coronavirus or getting prepared for it. Oh, you're in the Netherlands. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think in other places, the fear of the coronavirus might be a little bit higher. I don't know if, of course, in the Eastern Hemisphere, wherever that might be, you know what I'm saying. Maybe closer to China, maybe Europe is slightly more vulnerable, but it just seems in the United States it seems a little bit overwrought for everybody to be walking around in masks. But hey, I'm not going to tell anybody not to be precautious or take precautions. Yeah, so people were all over Prince Charles for being the polluter that he and his ilk are. We really, if the billionaire class and the rich people and the elite class really want to do something about climate change, they really have to start talking about taking themselves out of their situation, their privileged situation, right? It's not about giving away money or giving away all your possessions. It's just, all of that money and all of that power and all of that ease leads to just doing things, knee-jerkingly, just doing what everybody else does, taking private jets and taking yachts and, vacations everywhere and just flying around the world, and, because you're an important mucky muck and everybody wants to hear from you and talk to you and be your friend and blah, 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 I would encourage the billionaire class to, maybe give up a lot of their wealth and go live as a commoner among the people, and stop spewing all this carbon into the air. Stop being poster children for consumption, because that's all they are. They're just, they are the drivers of the lifestyle that is killing the planet. So they need to take themselves out of being that driver. Yeah, Chris Martenson is doing excellent work. I suggest everybody go to Chris Martenson's YouTube channel, Peak Prosperity. If you want to stay up on the virus news, coronavirus news, Chris Martenson is doing excellent work. And Proudhon says Martenson projects 115 million cases by the end of February, with 23 million requiring ICU. Wow. Well, if we make it to those numbers, that is, that's mask time for me. I don't know. That's a good time to stock up on the food and get the masks, I guess. Maybe before. Last Monkey, we're with you. Get your food storage up now and get your masks now. Coronavirus may be a bioweapon, of course. Of course. You know that the Zika virus is owned by the Rockefeller Foundation. So I also heard something about Ebola being, there was a lot of testing being done on Ebola before the last big Ebola outbreak. Right? So, I'm not saying it's all conspiracy. I'm just saying, like, Illyri, a lot of skepticism is probably appropriate. So, going south, how you doing? You know what I didn't see covered much this last week was there was this huge riot in France, in Paris. Paris descends into chaos as riot police deploy grenades and water cannons against striking firefighters. This happened 3 days ago, January 28th. Or was that 4 days ago? 3 or 4 days ago. Middle of the week, striking French firefighters faced off against riot police who deployed water cannons and smoke grenades and erected large metal barriers to block off the fire service as they protested in Paris on Tuesday. Several thousand firefighters protested understaffing, the threat to their government pensions, and a lack of recognition of their work, including risk premiums that match those of the police and the gendarme. Police decried the fact that many protesting firefighters had abandoned the prearranged route, and it didn't take long before the march descended into clashes with riot police. On top of the fact that the Yellow Vest protest is still going on, entering the 69th week. France is in absolute turmoil. And rightly so. I think that they should be. They're an example of citizenry that has had it up to here, completely disgusted with the neoliberal elite, disgusted with the elites in general, and they have a history of telling it like it is and telling the government or the elite where they can shove it. And I don't know. Lots of countries could be doing the very same thing. The U.S. could be doing the very same thing. I think the amount of wreckage that the Trump administration is descending upon the environment. The amount of wreckage that the Trump administration is descending upon the working class, even though they're not feeling it yet. The amount of homeless people in the United States, just the amount of homeless people in Los Angeles alone is mind-boggling. And the fact that both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party don't give a rat's ass about the working class, about the common person, and both parties are doing everything in their power to continue their rule and to continue the erosion of services for the common people and rights for the common people, and they're the techno oligarchy is on the rise, and they're doing everything they can to just bolster that. Oh, here's a wild story, and I don't have the article in front of me, but I'll just let you know what it is. Elizabeth Warren said that there should be a law against, or people should be penalized, or I don't even know if she said arrested, but it should be against the law, she said, to spread disinformation online, whatever that means, disinformation. This is a lot like Kamala Harris talking about, well, we need to, Trump needs to be kicked off Twitter. He needs to be censored. And we need to, kick these people off Twitter or off the internet. So it's very interesting that these people who are like super identity politic warriors, are so interested in censoring people and so interested in telling people what, who can say what and who is allowed to speak and who's allowed to speak on the internet and what's being allowed to be said. I find it very alarming that people are into this idea, because even people that are into, I've seen the idea that, deniers should be censored. And I get it, because I've had that feeling. I have that emotion. I've probably even said it in anger a few times, like, screw these people. They should be kicked out of the, whatever, kicked off the internet. But the thing is that when you do that, it ends up coming back to bite you. So, if you allow censorship of certain people, you're also allowing the censorship of, maybe your particular viewpoint on the spectrum of what's right and wrong, or what's, true or not true. There's just as much censorship of actual real climate news and climate data. I don't see any censorship of denialist, news, not at all. But I see, maybe a soft censorship of real climate news. You just don't see as much climate news on YouTube or other places as you would, or as you would if people were taking the situation as seriously as it should be taken. You never see climate news on the mainstream media. That is just, it is a footnote at best. It's a very end of the, the news hour at best. And it should be, front page, top headline every single day. That should be where climate change stays above impeachment, above everything else. We'll get there, though. We will get there when things get hairy enough, when things devolve enough, when maybe food shocks hit, or maybe wildfires the size of the ones we're seeing in Australia come to the U.S. I mean, we've already seen massive ones in the U.S., but when we start seeing that kind of like all over the globe, I think it's how are you going to avoid it or ignore it? I don't know. All right, guys, I'm going to have to end this. I'm not going to do a really long one today. I just want to get on and talk about a couple stories. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, see, climate change news doesn't sell widgets, not at all. I mean, that's the other drawback to anything climate change is that people just don't want to, I was just thinking about, being a climate change communicator, or being somebody who is interested in climate change. Like when you pursue a conversation about the reality of climate change with people, the reaction from a lot of people is like, no thank you. Like, run away very quickly. Because it's really a lot. It's too much to take. And that's just the reality of it. And even progressive channels, this is the most progressive channel on YouTube, the most progressive, because other channels will talk about climate change, but they don't like to as much because they know it's a ratings loser. They know their views go down. People don't want to hear about it. People don't want to talk about it. And they don't really want to talk about the idea of near-term human extinction. Of course, nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody really wants to get into the doom and the gloom. So, there are certain things that progressive channels like to, want to avoid because they're either third rails, they're either like censorship third rails, or they're just too doomy and too gloomy. But whatever. But we're into that kind of thing, aren't we? Anyways, I got to get out of here. I got somewhere to be. Thank you so much for hopping on with me. Good to see you all. I will probably be back tomorrow morning. I have no idea what time. We'll just surprise you. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day and peace out.